Welcome to this episode of Health Reversion. You're here with Adrian, and in this episode we're going to be talking about all things oxalates. Now, what are oxalates? Well, they are produced naturally by your body, and then they are also found in a range of plants, grains, some fruits, nuts, and legumes. And some of the popular foods that we tend to like have really high concentrations, such as black tea and chocolate. Plants contain oxalate as a means of getting rid of excess calcium in the plant. Excess calcium in the plant is not conducive to the plant's overall growth and well-being, and so it produces those oxalates to get rid of any excess calcium. It also produces the oxalates as a defense mechanism. Contrary to popular belief, plants also want to evolve on this planet. They want to see how far their particular species and characteristics can flourish. And when you have little bugs and insects coming along to eat you all the time, that's going to obviously hamper that initiative. So the plants produce these tiny oxalate crystals, and they're actually quite sharp. And so when the bug or the insect comes along to the leaf and starts eating, the hope that the plant has is that that bug or insect will have such a hurt mouth that it's not going to come back and try and eat that plant again. Now, when it comes to oxalates in humans, these tiny little oxalate crystals are not going to be a problem for our mouths. And oxalic acid is actually quite tasteless, so you won't be able to identify it with your taste buds. So under normal circumstances, where the individual has a balanced diet and they ingest the oxalates in addition to what the body's producing, some of those oxalates will be consumed by the gut microbiome, and some of those oxalates will just find their way out of the body through the general elimination pathways, and quite frankly they're not going to really pose any health issues for these particular individuals who are healthy and able to metabolize this particular organic compound. However, when consumed in excess amounts or in the presence of underlying health conditions, oxalates may start to find themselves accumulating throughout the body, particularly in the muscle tissue and around the joints. Now, I'm going to present to you an analogy here, and I ask you to bear with me for a minute or two while I explain it. It's a little bit off topic, but hang in there. If you drive a diesel-powered vehicle, it is likely that that vehicle contains what's called a diesel particulate filter. Now, this diesel particulate filter sits just after the engine, and its job is to capture all of the tiny little particulates of oil and lubricant that the engine will burn. And it aims to capture those so that they don't go out through the exhaust and into the environment. During the normal use of the vehicle, this diesel particulate filter will heat up just naturally, and when it gets to 600 degrees, it will do what's called a spontaneous regeneration, where it will be hot enough to incinerate most of the particulates that have built up in the filter. And then the normal processes of the car just continue on from there. However, if the car vehicle isn't being driven a lot and it's not given that opportunity to really heat up, the engine will flash a warning sign or give you some sort of notifications on your dashboard to pull over, where you'll need to idle and give the engine time to do a regeneration on its own. And finally, if you're absolutely just for some reason you've got a lemon, or you're just not driving it very much at all, or not driving it properly, keeping it with good oil, etc. There may come a time where the diesel particulate filter just gets so clogged up, and the engine's onboard computer system will register that and basically tell you, hey, you need to take this into a service centre to either get this cleaned or replaced. So why am I talking about a diesel engine and this diesel particulate filter when the video is on oxalates? Well, let's pretend for a moment that you are the diesel engine. And the diesel particulate filter is your liver and kidneys, because they are the filtering system of the body. Under a garden variety life where there's not a lot of stress going on and you might not be experiencing many of your major life challenges, and things are quite steady and consistent, then your liver and your kidneys are likely working well, and the oxalates aren't building up, and therefore you're not experiencing any problems due to oxalates. However, if we are completely honest with ourselves and we are open to the fact that there are an abundant amount of toxins being dispersed in our air, added to our water, added to our food supply, contained in our beauty products, in the containers that we use, and just that toxic load is enough sometimes for people's liver to be under significant stress. So when there's the oxalates coming in high quantities to an already overly burdened and stressed liver from all of the environmental toxins and all of the other toxins that we consume through our food and drinks, this is when the body may not be able to process these oxalates, and they'll start to find their way out into the bloodstream, and they'll look for a home in muscle tissue and around the joints and cartilage. And unfortunately, we don't have a dashboard in front of us that will turn on a warning light to say, hey, toxic level in the liver is reaching its peak. You need to give your system a little bit of a break by the side of the road so that we can clear that out. And there's no mechanic or anything like that that can come in and replace the liver unless, of course, you want to go down the very expensive road of surgery. Now, are oxalates the culprit when it comes to really, really popular diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, even just general muscle pain, joint pain? I'm not sure. However, there are a number of suggestions, some of them anecdotal, some of them backed by research, that do suggest that people that, for instance, switch to a carnivore diet where they're only eating animal products do report back often that they've had huge relief from their existing joint pain, muscle cramps, etc. Is this a direct correlation between the fact that the new diet that they've gone on is very, very low in oxalates, even negligible amounts are found in animal products? So does that directly correlate and mean that, oh, oxalates were the problem and we've just got to get oxalates out of our diet now? Well, not necessarily. As I've mentioned on this channel and many times, we are all individuals, and what might work for somebody might be catastrophic for somebody else. So I'm not here to recommend a carnivore diet, and I'm certainly not here to recommend that you cut out all foods that are high in oxalates to give this a go. However, it might be a good idea to look at the foods and do your research and see which foods are really high in oxalates, and maybe looking at seeing how you can substitute those foods with other vegetables. So it doesn't mean that you stop eating vegetables and you stop eating seeds altogether, but just switching and substituting to go for the lower or medium level oxalate foods. Another interesting point on the oxalates is the very clever and prominent marketing that the plant-based food diet and eating like fruits and vegetables only and getting your protein from nuts and seeds and legumes, while that may work for some people and they thrive and have a wonderful life exclusively on a plant-based diet, what we've got to consider here is that even if they're eating organic, even if all of those foods are purely organic and you're taking down the pesticide, the fungicide and the herbicide load, which is excellent, but even with that coming down, you've still got the naturally occurring food chemicals such as salicylates, you've got your amines, your glutamate, and obviously the organic compound of oxalate. So there's these naturally occurring chemicals and compounds that can pose just a greater threat as the unnatural toxins that are added by man. Therefore, an individual who has decided to make plant-based foods their primary source of nutrition may be eating a very, very high oxalate diet. If this is somebody that is experiencing health issues, lethargy, joint pain, headaches, just not feeling well in general, then it could be, I'm not saying it is, but it could be related to the very, very high level of oxalates that they're ingesting, which may be overburdening the digestive system. I haven't done a 2-day kickstart for this particular topic because there is research that suggests if you cut out oxalates very, very quickly, there can be some very uncomfortable symptoms and just general discomfort as the body tries to dump the existing oxalate load. So what I've done is I've included some resources in the description area that'll give you the information on what foods contain what level of oxalates, and then you can go ahead and do further research and see if this is for you and this might resonate and might be something that you would like to incorporate, or it might not be and you can move on to something else and find other ways to better improve your health. But just as an introduction, some of the really high concentration oxalate foods are things like spinach, beet greens, potatoes, almonds, cashews, tea, coffee, and chocolate. Now, just there in that list, there are foods and drinks that are quite readily consumed in our society and quite consistently consumed almost on a daily basis by many people. So please keep in mind that it's not like having just the one bar of chocolate is going to send the oxalates really high and make it unsustainable for your body to assimilate, but it's more so the gradual deposit of them over time. And when they reach a certain level and the liver's really struggling to process them, that's when they can potentially leach out into the rest of your body, finding a home in the muscle tissue and joints. So to recap, I'm not suggesting for a moment that oxalates are evil or dangerous. All I'm suggesting here is that given each individual's unique goings on, whether it's work commitments, family commitments, relationship commitments, could be just the general goings on in 2022. Humanity has been through quite a lot. And I think sometimes we just assume the body is just coping. It's okay, it can deal with all that additional stress. But what if we could take the opportunity, and it could be a few days, could be a few weeks, it might even be a few months, and just look at reducing the very high oxalate foods and just seeing if it makes a difference. And if it doesn't, great, get back to the chocolate ice cream, put away that block of chocolate, drink the tea, Popeye the Sailor Man with his spinach, can down lots of that. Ultimately, you're the experiment, and I'll leave this with you. I'd like to thank you for watching until the end of the video. If you didn't get anything out of this video, it's good to get feedback from me about that, so please give it a thumbs down. If you did get something out of this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. In the meantime, I ask that you keep well, and I'll see you in the next video.